Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? We're going to be getting into digital performer projects today.
Really to dig deep.
Yeah, but not just the basics. We're going deeper, especially for the organization side of things. All the little details about files, folders, all that stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that trips people up.
Exactly, even if they got the music making part down. And I think this is going to be really interesting because our source material is it's chapter 23 from the main, digital performer manual. This isn't the beginner's guide or anything. So we're assuming, you've dabbled in DP.
Right, you've got some experience, you're ready to get organized.
Yes, level up that project management.
Because let's be honest, this is the stuff even experienced users, sometimes they're like, ugh, I don't want to deal with files.
Yeah, they just gloss over it.
But it makes a huge difference.
Oh, it's huge. Think about it. You could be amazing at audio editing, effects, but if your projects are a mess...
It's like a chef with a messy kitchen.
Totally. You're not going to find anything.
You spend more time looking for that spice than actually cooking.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be digging through a million folders trying to find that one vocal track they did or that synth patch from weeks ago.
Oh, killer synth patch.
Right. That moment of brilliance. And it's like DP's organization is built to actually help you find those moments later on.
It's like having a really good assistant.
Okay, so Chapter 23, it starts by breaking down the anatomy of a DP project, like what it is, from a file and folder view. And you can think of the project folder as like the heart of it all.
For home base.
Yes. Everything else lives under that umbrella.
And you'll notice, this is something that DP does well. This project folder system, it might seem simple, but this logic, once you grasp it, it's like learning a musical language. Suddenly you can go to other music software and you're like, oh, I get it.
Oh, that's a really good point. So it's transferable.
Very much so.
Okay, so we've got our project folder, the command center. What else is going on in there?
Well, DP, it likes to keep things tidy.
Okay.
So within that main folder, you'll see more folders. You've got your audio files. Pretty self-explanatory.
Right, that's all the audio you record.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. DP has its preferences, defaults.
Right.
But it's not a control freak.
Okay, good to know.
You're not stuck with those if you want to change them up later.
All right, but it's good to know the default.
Absolutely, because then you know where to find things. And this is huge, not just for your own sanity, but especially if you collaborate with others.
Oh yeah, collaboration, big one.
If you're speaking the same language, hey, the audio file's live here. Saves so much time, potential for errors.
And then you're not sending emails like, wait, where's that?
Yeah.
Check this folder, check that folder.
Exactly. Now there's this other folder, you should know about it. The analysis files folder.
Analysis files. Ooh, that sounds kind of...
Intimidating.
Right, yeah.
A little bit. Don't get too cozy with this one.
Okay.
This is DP's behind-the-scenes tech team.
Okay, so they just do their thing.
They help speed things up, especially when you're doing a lot of time stretching, pitch shifting, CPU-heavy stuff. They're important, but thankfully DP manages them automatically.
So we can just let them do their thing?
You focus on the music. Let DP handle the tech.
I like that. So no need to be best friends with those analysis files. Got it. Now, there are a bunch of other folders in a project, autosaves, bounces, a few more. We might come back to those, but key takeaway for our listener right now.
Think of it this way. DP is mirroring how many musicians already organize their work intuitively. You've got your main project idea, and within that, you've got your individual tracks, drafts, experiments, whatever. DP just gives you that clear framework to put it all together. Makes sense.
It does. It does make sense. Okay, so you're ready to start a new track. DP's got a few ways to do this. But the one I think you're really going to love as you get comfortable is using templates. It's like having, I don't know, a pre-packed studio session ready to go.
Yeah, you walk in, everything's set up how you like it.
Templates are awesome once you've got your workflow down, those go-to setups. But let's, before we go too far down that road, got to talk about another big one. Saving your work.
The old save button.
Right, because we love getting in the flow, but
yeah,
we've all had that moment where we forget to save and disaster strikes.
The digital equivalent of spilling coffee on your mix notes.
Ugh, don't even say it. So chapter 23, it's pretty blunt.
Yeah.
Saving often, super important. But I like how they break down the different save functions. It made me rethink how I do things.
Yeah, it's not just hitting save every few minutes, it's strategy.
Right, and honestly, I think this is where the save a copy as, which sounds clunky,
Hey.
It becomes your best friend.
Incremental backups, baby. That's where it clicked for me.
Explain that.
Okay, so you're working on this complex song, right? Lots of parts. With incremental saves, You finish a section, you save a new version.
So like, drums are done, new save.
Exactly. Something goes wrong. DP crashes, you delete a track by mistake, you only lose that section's worth, not the whole thing.
Oh, that's way less painful.
Right. Like checkpoints in a game.
Love it. And DP even has that built-in feature, autosave.
Set it and forget it, extra safety net.
I'm all about autosave. It's like having a backup singer who's also a tech person, making sure you don't lose your groove. Okay, so beyond the basics, Chapter 23 gets into some cool stuff you might not know about. One that stood out to me. DP's import and export game is strong.
Gotta speak the language of audio no matter what.
Right. Collaborating with someone using a different DAW needs stems for mixing. DP's got you covered.
It plays well with others.
Speaking of which, they also talk about something that's always tricky for people switching between Mac and Windows. That project compatibility.
The age-old battle continues, even in the music world.
Right. But the good news is DP works on both macOS and Windows. There is one big caveat, though, especially for plugin lovers, that the chapter calls out.
Hit me with it.
Those Mac-only plugins. If you're collaborating, or even just moving your project between systems, make sure your plugins can make the jump too.
So important. Nothing worse than opening a project and all your sounds are gone because the plugins aren't playing nice.
Exactly. So do your homework on that, check those specs, save yourself the headache later on. Now, let's see, what else did Chapter 23 have for us? Yes, they talk about project notes. And I know, sounds kind of boring.
Like, who's got time for notes when you're in the zone?
Right. But trust me, this feature is a lifesaver.
Okay, I'm listening. Why is that?
Because, think about it. You're deep in a project, weeks go by, you open it back up. Can you remember every little detail? That cool effect setting, that lyrical idea you had at 3 a.m.?
My memory's already terrible.
Right. Project notes, it's like having a notepad built into DP, just for those moments.
Or like, don't forget to fix that buzz in the bass line.
Exactly. Future you will thank you. I can't tell you how many times I wish I'd left myself better notes on old projects.
It's like breadcrumbs, so you don't get lost in the creative forest.
Perfectly said. Now, speaking of getting lost in the process, Chapter 23 also talks about a feature that's incredibly freeing, reverting back to saved versions.
Ooh, yes. This seems small, but it changes how you work.
Totally. But you know how it goes. You're experimenting, adding effects, editing, and then you're like, nope, I've gone too far. I just want to go back.
Back to the good old days before you went down that rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the past, it was like either painstakingly undo everything or start over. But DP's revert to saved. You can undo big chunks of work, no fear.
It's a time machine for your music.
And that kind of brings us back to templates. Because once you find a workflow you love, you can save it as a template and reuse it. It's like having a sonic blueprint. And the cool thing is, templates, they don't have to be crazy complicated. They could be as simple or as, elaborate as you want.
It's like you have your basic recipes, right?
Right.
But then the ones you really use, they've got the notes in the margins, the little tweaks you've made.
Yes, exactly. So let's say every time you start a song, it's always like acoustic guitar, maybe some piano, scratch vocal track, instead of setting all that up manually every time.
Template!
Songwriter started template, boom.
Here you go. Open up DP, there's your go-to setup. Ready to capture the magic.
Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And you'll start to see those patterns as you use DP more. What are those setups you do over and over? Could be for recording a podcast even, scoring a film, or just messing around with a new sound design thing you're into.
It's like you're building up your own custom tools within DP, just for you.
And the time it saves you, that's time you can spend actually making music.
That's the goal, right?
Exactly. Okay, we covered a lot here, this deep dive into digital performer projects. So for our listeners out there ready to level up, what are we taking away? Number 1, DP, it's organized. It wants to help you. Use those folders. Keep things tidy. It'll make your life easier.
Seriously. And those backups, not a suggestion, make it a habit. Save a copy as is your friend.
Be kind to your future self.
Yes. And don't forget those little features, project notes, reverting back to old versions. They seem small, but they make a big difference.
They can save your butt sometimes, creatively speaking.
Absolutely. Okay, before we wrap up, little homework assignment for everyone listening. We talked about templates, how they streamline things. So what's one task you do in DP over and over that you could turn into a template?
Doesn't matter how simple or complex, just think about it.
Exactly. Could be setting up a drum loop, could be a whole orchestral template. Go wild. Because even those little improvements, they add up to big creative leaps down the line.
It's all about working smarter, not harder. And that's why these deep dives are so fun. You walk away with knowledge, but also things you can actually DO with it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Ah.
And on that note, we're resurfacing from our Digital Performer project, Deep Dive. Until next time, happy creating, everyone.